Good morning, everyone out in YouTube land. We are going to do a video today here at Blue Glow Electronics on a Pioneer turntable. And just want to let you know, what I'm going to do today is not specific to this table. The things I'm doing, I've done on literally at least 100 tables in my day. So whether it's a Techniques table or a Pioneer or you name the brand, most of the, I wouldn't say really high-end tables are like this. So if you get into Lin, Rega, AR, some of the higher-end tables, you won't see the same thing. But most of the $100, $200, $300 automatic turntables that you might see out there, similar to this unit, this is actually a Pioneer PL-112 unit. But most of them operate about the same, and so what you'll see here today should hold true for a lot of turntables. Let's see what we can do here. First thing I'm gonna do is take off the pretty thick felt slip mat on this thing. Next off, you kind of lift the belt off of this little pulley right here, and then the belt ends up seating down around the rim here, and then you get down in here. And by the way, the belt's already been replaced on this. You can see, and you've seen this in my other videos, see where the belt was laying around here? You see the pattern of where it was laying. The stuff turns to tar basically over time and just gums everything up. So let me show you a couple tips along the way, and we'll kind of take it from there. Alright, the first tip I want to show you, down inside the bearing well, which I always clean out and lubricate, is this teeny little ball bearing. So if you lose this thing, you are in trouble. So if you're ever working on a Pioneer turntable and some other brands as well, I've seen them on Techniques and others, go ahead and turn this thing upside down, get that out with your hand. I put it in this little cup right here that I know won't go anywhere. And as you can see down inside that bearing well, kind of hard to see down in there, but that's where there's a little recess down the bottom where the bearing sits. And then if you'll notice here on the bottom of the actual shaft of the platter here, what you got is the little recess where the ball sits there as well. Now, I've already done a few things to this table. I was doing them, and then I thought, you know what, I should make a video of this. So first thing I do when I get a table like this is I get the bearing well, get some Q-tips, I go down in here and I clean it out really good down in there. I already cleaned this one, but you'll come up with all kinds of gunk. And if it's heavy, thick gunk, a lot of times I'll use a little bit of degreaser down in there and keep cleaning it out until basically your Q-tips are coming out completely white. And then let me show you what I use down in those. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but in case you haven't, I'll give you a tip on how to make money if you want on eBay. So you can buy these little needle oiler bottles on eBay. If you buy them in quantities, you can get them for less than $1 a piece. It's nothing more than a bottle with a long needle, a cap, and not really pointy on the end, but good for lubricating. You see these things sold on eBay. They may have a sticker on them that says Technique Turntable Oil or Pioneer Turntable Oil. It's the same bottle and it's the same oil. They're just kind of prying on people to believe that there's an oil made specifically for their turntable. They'll sell these things for about $12 or $13 or $14. And what it really is, most people are filling them up with, is synthetic motor oil of the lightest kind, so like 0W20 or 0W40, something along those lines. And you just put a drop or two down in here. I usually put like a drop or two there, and I'll put a drop or two here on the shaft itself. Sometimes when you go to drop the platter back down, it won't go down because there's the oil's causing basically pressure and not letting the air come back out. So sometimes you have to spin it a little bit to get it to sit back down. But basically what I do on that. On these on these little belt guides right here. The way this arm works is when you flip this lever, this is 33 and 45 here. If you'll notice what it does out here on the arm, it just raises it up and down. So you got the belt spinning, going around the pulley here. Let me turn this thing a little bit so you can see a little better. Going around the pulley here, and if you notice, there's two different sizes to the pulley: the small end and the large end down at the bottom. Usually when you've got a gunked up table with a belt like this, this thing will be gunked up as well. So one thing I always do is I'll put a drop of oil right down in here, right where the shaft's at. Then what I'll do is, let me plug this thing in here. Turn on the Variac and get it up and running. And what will happen is, if you notice when I turn the turntable on back here, the switch, what it does is it starts this thing spinning. You probably can't hear it because I've already got the motor lubed and good and quiet, but if you remember in other videos, this is the cloth sandpaper basically. It's just a mesh thing with, I think this is about 120 grit on it or so, but basically you come along and just kind of get this thing to contour up against, and you'll feel the little nut and knobs of the old belt on it that you're actually wearing off as you go. But see right there, that just ate off a bunch of that old belt, and it's basically just go up and down this thing. You don't want to wear off much of the metal, so I'm not rubbing hard. I'm just holding it tight enough to kind of get the old gunked up belt off of it. And if you can see it now, let me turn it off. This thing looks much better now that I've cleaned it. So tip of the day for you there, and just make sure this thing's working well. I usually put a drop of oil or something here as well to make sure that that thing is moving nice and smooth like it should be. On this table, I actually had an issue where when you had the table up here and the cueing mechanism arm here was up, you know, when you drop it down, what's supposed to happen here is it slowly, watch it slowly lower the arm here down onto the record. And then when you lift it back up, it raises it up. Well, it wasn't raising it up enough to actually clear the turntable platter felt pad and the record. So I had to go underneath and make an adjustment on that actually controlled the height of this thing, and I'll try to show you that here in a minute. The other thing I always do, if you notice these tone arms like this, notice how nice and shiny and chrome that thing is. When I first got it, it was horrible looking. It was just kind of all pitted looking and oxidized. And all you have to do is get a little piece of 400 steel wool. You wrap it around and you just basically clean back and forth like this. Rub really well. And before you know it, you will have a beautiful looking tone arm. Works really well on all these chrome arms. Anyway, let me get this thing upside down and show you what I've really got to do to this thing. To get the bottom off of this thing, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws around it. Basically just use my nut driver. They're kind of long here, and took all 8 of those out, and then the bottom will drop off. Okay, as you can see here, the top kind of lifts off of the sub chassis, but you notice there's a wire that goes from the basically the speaker jack terminal connections. This blue wire goes down here and kind of grounds on the bottom of this chassis here. So I'm going to have to disconnect this wire right here. Got the bottom off now. I'm going to show you a couple things. So to fix the issue we were having with the Q arm, tone arm, Q arm, or Q lever not raising the tone arm up enough, I basically had to do 2 things to fix that properly. The first one was, good morning, Jack. Come to see me? Good boy. Sorry, I was getting attacked by my loving dog. There are really about 3 things I had to do to fix that properly. to fix the issues that were going on with this thing. The first one was I had to adjust all these suspension knobs. Basically these things turn and ratchet, kind of click, 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 and as you turn it, it puts more tension on these springs here, as you can see. And if you turned it and then to a point it goes beyond, this thing will kind of come back down. So you can see what I'm talking about here. See, that's tightener, tighter, and then it comes back and it's loose. So what I wanted to do was get that thing as tight as I could get it without going back, which was right about there. It was the issue we had with this table. The suspension's basically shot on it. So we were getting it as, like I said, as tight as I could get it on these things, because these springs are basically worn down at this point in time. And so that added some suspension here in the middle that helped keep the platter straight, because the platter was leaning a little bit to one side. The other thing, the motor little mounts right here, these rubber motor mounts, they're starting to sag a little bit. So you can probably tell here, but I added 2 thick washers on each motor mount to basically give them some more rigidity and to hold this motor in place better than it was. Also, when this thing was upside down, I put a drop right there in the bottom of that thing of oil where the other end of the motor shaft actually runs on that thing. And then finally, the last thing I had to do, this is the little lever that gets flipped right here, and this shaft here is the actual Q-arm itself. I ended up having to bend that thing just the slightest little bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8, somewhere in between there, just enough to give that thing a little more height than it had. And once I got all those things done, this thing was acting properly. But then I started playing it, and we had issues, intermittent issues. And what would happen was I would wiggle this cord, the RCA jacks, and as I would wiggle them, the music would cut in and out. So what did I do? I ordered a new set of Pioneer RCA cables, made specifically for this PL unit, and we're going to put them in, replace this one, and get the thing going again. It's really not much to it. So you got the, of course, the 2 ends here and the ground lead. They kind of come back up and they come in here. So we got this rubber little grommet here that we have to pull out of the way. We'll have to remove this basically cable holder right here. And what this does is it gives a little bit of free move to this whole platter assembly as it starts to move around. And then what we're going to do is basically desolder all 4 of these wires. So you'll kind of have a white, red, or ground red, white ground. That's what will end up happening. And hopefully we won't have to mess with the little bitty teeny tone arm wires that go up into the tone arm. Hopefully they're okay. I have replaced those before many times with this stuff I call Litz tone arm wire. It's not a fun job, and my phone's ringing. I'll be back. Well, we've been removing these things, and they're not as easy as they look. Look, the actual ground wire is pretty simple. It's a solid piece of wire here. But when you get into the actual RCA cable itself, one side's kind of a grounded shield on the outside. The other is a single wire conductor. See that right there? And no wonder this thing getting bent as broken, because that's all that runs from there all the way to the other end is this single wire conductor. Anyway, they bring this single wire conductor through the bottom hole on this tag strip, and then they bring it up through the top hole and they wrap it around, and then they solder it. So getting them out is somewhat of a pain. And when you do, if you'll notice, see the little red wire here, how it's loose. See the little white wire here, how it's loose now. And see the little black wires here attached that would go to the ground in the middle. They're loose now. They all came loose as part of getting this thing out of here. So I'll show you a tip. I always do this before I start removing anything. And it's maybe a little bit hard to see here. Let me get it in the light a little better. But basically what you end up with is I've written down, I've drawn the wires coming in, the ground black wire in the middle, and then kind of coming in the red, the ground, the white, and the ground, as I'd shown you a little earlier up there. But then what I did was I wrote down, hey, the green wire, the red wire, the black wire, the white wire, and the blue wire here all go off to the tone arm itself. So if I had not wrote these down and labeled them just here on a scratch pad that I can throw away, guess what? I'd be in trouble right now because these wires have moved and I probably wouldn't remember what went where, and I'd be doing lots of research on the internet for the next hour or two. So anyway, gonna get this screw right here out, get this thing off and replace it, and see how it goes. The replacement unit I picked up, it was actually not a new one. You can't really buy these new anymore. It was one on eBay I found for about $12 or $14, can't remember exactly. And you know, it had been cut out of a good working table, and hopefully it's good. I'll find out here shortly. Anyway, if you notice, the ends have been cut, so I got to strip these wires a little bit and get to soldering here. First thing I did was took the wire ends here and I tinned them with the solder and the iron just to get them ready, so that I'm not having to do all the heavy work once I'm trying to hold them in place and solder. So just tip number 28 for the day. I'm going to go ahead and get these on there and solder them up. Okay, got it all soldered back in, kind of the ground, red, black, white ground. Tell you, it was not the easiest thing to get all that soldered back in, and mostly because you're dealing with almost coax. Luckily I've had 30 years as an amateur radio operator and soldered a lot of, stripped and soldered a lot of coax in my day, so helped out some. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing back together and see how she operates. Well, got the bottom back on it, and put the platter back on, put the ball bearing in it, put the platter back on, put the belt back on. Dropped a record on here, kind of got the cue over there on the side. I'm going to turn it on, and you'll notice the record's spinning nicely here. And I picked this up yesterday at a flea market, or not yesterday, but Friday at a flea market. And it's a Model KA 3500 Kenwood stereo amplifier, and I'm going to see see whether it works or not. So let's drop the needle down, testing two pieces of equipment at once here. I believe we are fixed. And the good news is this Kenwood amplifier I picked up for $20 seems to work as well. Really scratchy volume knob, but nothing that can't be easily fixed. Guys, let me turn this down. We're gonna call this a wrap. If you'll notice, now when I lift up on the Q arm, what does it do? Raises it up enough off the needle that you can bring it over. One of the things the guy was complaining about was on autoplay. So when it got near the end, let's just do it here. Let's get it and kick it out here at the end. I guess the very end, it would play inward and basically lock here at that point. And if you did the up part or whatnot, it didn't raise it up enough to bring it back across, so it kind of came skipping back across the record, if that made sense. Any rate, really nice turntable. Not an automatic arm that would pick it up and bring it across automatically, but still, the fact that it's the cueing's working well now. Let's see how this does. Drop back down. Yeah. working great. We're going to call this a wrap for another Blue Glow Electronics video here on the, not quite used to this new camera and aiming the angle of it, but PL-112D Pioneer turntable. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll keep these things coming.